wait. No, it's Starbucks.
Sure, but I got my coffee here and all right, Kimothy, look at that hair.
I
Look.
know I'm indoors, so I actually got to blow dry my hair, and I'm with my friend Lisa, who has been focused in my travel channel about a girl who jeeps. And I'm staying here because it is hotter than fucking hell. And I was just done. I was just done. I went up to the Upper Ottawa Valley, had a lovely tour. It's going to be on my YouTube channel, but it is, the weather is challenging.
Yeah.
So I'm in her lovely spot, and she had a hair dryer, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to see what this looks like. And so I'm kind of happy with it, actually.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah,
Well,
but look at all the, are we saying that yet? The F word? But the gray
it
is like,
happens. It happens to
I
everybody.
know, and I just wasn't sure if we were swearing yet, so that's where we are right now.
I was considering going camping and I have my camper at a campsite, but it was a mess last night and I decided not to stay. So I think I'll give it a go, but it does lead me to think about all the folks that don't have a house to go to, that don't have a choice but to be out in this heat. It's crazy heat right now, and like I'm physically choosing to go if I go, if I'm brave enough, if I stay. And I just like I feel for those people that don't have a choice, right? Further to, your previous conversation about people, living on the street or whatnot, and there's just not a spot for them to go.
Well, I mean, for people that follow my own YouTube channel, I am following all of these people in the Sahara. They're really struggling. And the amazing thing about van life is it's great when the weather is good. It's not so great when the weather is bad. I am here in Gatineau, Quebec, because my friend knew that I was miserable. Like when you are trying to sleep in a heat wave, it is nasty business. So I'm here with a hair dryer, and yeah, I'm really excited about the person that we're going to talk to, um, because we've been friends for decades. And oh my gosh, Lisa Macleod, former Minister of Provincial Parliament, she has been very outspoken about women who are aging, me. I'm a little older, I think, than she's like 50 plus women. I'm almost 60. Um, but it's going to be a great conversation. But I wanted to ask you how you're doing.
Oh, I'm doing peachy. I'm always doing peachy. I mean, we haven't had an episode about us, but I think that what we'll have to do, because both of us have trouble talking about ourselves, generally speaking, is that we're just gonna have to do quick fire questions. I think is what we're gonna have to do for each other. But
You know what I think would be really fun is if you did like 10 quick fire questions to me. And I think that that's an episode that we should do before you go on your glorious vacation. I take care of your dogs and your cats. Every time I told people that like I'm taking care of Brad and Mabel, they just like laugh. But I think that that would be really cool to say, here are 10 quick fire questions, and then you can ask me anything you want, and I am going to answer it in truth and honesty about what it's like to live the life that I do.
is it gonna be like truth and dare minus the dare?
I think it's going to be like Twister.
As long as it's not spin the bottle.
Are, are you old enough to know what Twister is?
I own Twister.
Oh my God.
That's
So
how I taught Eva her colors.
that'd be awesome. That would be awesome.
Oh
So
my
you know how sometimes I say to you that like Eva, and then I have another friend who's Ava, who's
goodness.
the same age. Oh my God. I was sitting here last night and Ava came up and she just like snuggled me. It was just like so effing cute. And she just like came up on my lap and snuggled me. And And she said, "Why do you call me Eva sometimes?" And I said, "There's another little kiddo I love whose name is Eva." So, yeah.
Eva has employed me in making balloon animals. So I've nailed a flower and a dog. That's all I have. But enough about us. Let's maybe bring in our guest today, Lisa, and we'll get this party started.
I'm excited. I'm so excited about this conversation. So
Okay, one
excited.
second.
Oh my God, look how beautiful she looks.
Oh,
Hey.
stunning.
Look how beautiful she
Oh, thank you. I
is.
washed my hair today for you.
I did too. I did too. It's
I
awesome.
did three, but mine's up. So you
Oh, well, you guys all look great. So how are things? Tell me more about this, what you're doing. It sounds amazing.
No, what you're doing is like way more amazing, but I think it's aligned with what I am doing, which is it's not 50. I know that we're going to talk about that in a second, that
Yeah.
you're doing 50 plus. I am 55 plus,
Oh,
well on my way to 60, and you're doing something that I'm so aligned with.
yeah. Well, you did your whole thing in the States. Are you still there or where are you at?
No, I'm in Gatineau, Quebec.
Oh,
Um,
okay,
right
makes
now.
sense.
Yeah, Buddy, who's hang on, he always makes an appearance and everything.
Oh, look
Yeah,
at
so
you, buddy.
I'm going into the Glebe on Wednesday because he needs a new knee. Who
Oh,
knew? Who knew?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
$5,500 later, he needs a new knee, but he's a puppy mill rescue, so I knew what I was getting into. Oh my God,
Yeah.
don't even, what I want to do, honestly, Lisa, is tell you first of all, oh my God, what a hero you are to mental health.
Oh, well, I don't know. I'm just doing what you're doing, right? Just trying to survive every day and acknowledge what I have.
Yeah, so I've talked to Amy at length about what an inspiration you are, and um, I think the first question I have for you, honestly, is you were a member of provincial parliament. You spoke about tourism. You spoke about a number of other things. How are you doing? Because you were very public about mental health challenges. So, can you talk to us a little bit before we get started about what that was like for you? Because when I had my PTSD and car accident and stuff like that, I
Yeah.
didn't have to do it in public. What was it like for you to do it in public?
Um, I was going through it, so you know what I mean. You just push through, and you don't really realize that it's not normal. Now, as I look back at it, I got to get through the anger, but I'll be diplomatic in saying I'm disappointed with the political class and the media because they clearly knew something was happening, and it was just there was just sustained attacks. There was no empathy, and there weren't any services for me. And so I was, what happened with me was obviously I had been dealing with depression. I knew that I had that. So I thought I was unipolar and had like a mood disorder. It wasn't until there was so much pressure with the death threats that I went manic. And I did that twice and I went into psychosis once. And so, um, yeah, I have a lot of disappointment with a lot of people, but it's not going to hold me back. I think that's why I have to talk about it more because, you know, I'm going through it now and I'm in a very good place, but
Good.
but somebody is going to die, and it's not maybe from suicide. I think like you look what's happening in the States or look what happened in the UK. um it's just a very unstable, unfortunate arena now, because it's so polarizing, and we've seen three women, um either shot at or murdered outside their constituency offices or at their home. And it all plays part and parcel. So that's just sort of my goal now. And it's like a one-sided conversation. It's not that I'm not listening to anybody, but I'm going to say it whether they think it's comfortable or not.
Can you just, before we dive a little deeper, can you just share with people that don't know, you came out very publicly, to share that you had mental health challenges. What was that for you?
When I disclosed it,
Yep.
I was so scared. I felt like it was going to be a weight off my shoulders. But the first time I sort of said I had dealt with depression, it was on the front page of every newspaper in Canada. And, you know, when you get up the next morning, and you've trended on Twitter, and then you're at the Ottawa airport at like 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and your face is all over the place. It's nothing really prepares you for your disclosure. Because at that point, people are actually very kind because it's been in the newspaper. There's been one story. And then, you know, when the second hit, which was far more serious, it was just people used it. And I guess it was because I had a lot more, I don't even want to say power, because I think it's funny when we're in politics, everyone thinks we have power, but we realize we have none. And so, but I was so recognizable, and it was just I was a lightning rod, because I had to carry the can on a couple pretty heavy files for the premier. And it was just, you know, if I could have laid underneath my bed in the fetal position for a couple of years, I would have. So, you
So
know,
why didn't you? What raised you up?
from the beginning, I thought, how could I be a mental health advocate? How can I protect other people if I'm hiding this myself? You know, it's almost like you're a fraud. So I had to tell people. And then I got involved and did some stuff with Susan Blaine, doing stuff with the Royal. Almost immediately I started doing stuff because it was also helping me, right? That I found my own tribe, my own people. So.
You often can't find those people until you start talking about it, right? And I mean, Kimothy and I've had our struggles too, and it's the same thing. It's,
Yeah.
not everybody struggles the same, but it's in the same arena of like, unless you open up, you can't find that tribe. And then, if you don't open up, it's more isolating than anything. But in your case, I mean, you're plastered over everything, right? Like all of that to like all these people, I guess, looking at you, trying to like make their decisions or be judgy or whatever they're doing. And it must have been overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, I had my fair share of, like most journalists, like Kimothy was, I think, the first person to really have me on her show. I used to love it, and I think most journalists are great, but there's always that one little prick, and that's what they are. Like they're not mature enough to understand that what they're doing could send somebody into a massive spiral. There's always going to be someone in politics that's going to want to have your job, and so they will use anything against you to put you down. And then there's always going to be your political opponents. And, you know, most people are gracious, some are not. And so when I was, police protection all the time, and someone was arrested, she was incarcerated 3 times for, wanting to kill me. And I had like a female member from the NDP walk over and she goes, "You deserve the death threats." I mean, who does that in real life? Like that's the toxic environment that politics is, right? And it's become much more normalized. So the question is, in this industry, and I'm not in it anymore, but the question then becomes, do you normalize it to the extent that people live in isolation and by virtue of being a mental illness shame, or do you normalize it so that people will come out and they will have the conversation? And so that's what I've tried to do. So I don't know, like I'm doing it day by day. I'm sure you guys are too. Just trying to make sure my dishes are done and laundry's completed, which it isn't, and that I can pay my mortgage just like everybody else,
So, as a leader, clearly you were a leader in Ontario and you were a leader actually across Canada when it came to this. Do you find that it has made a difference? Because when you spoke out, I'm just going to share my experience was, thank God, like literally thank God somebody in a position of power has talked about the 1 in 4 women, maybe 1 in 3, who are dealing with mental health challenges, particularly our younger generation. Did you feel that you were heard?
Well, I mean, I was disappointed with some people, as I said, and some people wanted to ignore it. Here's where I was heard from a woman driving down the road in the constituency. When I was on the radio, everything she said, she called me right after. She said, I moved over to the side of the road And I cried because everything Lisa Macleod was going through, I was going through too. And so I thought, okay, I made a difference there because she sought help. So then when I came back after my leave of absence, there was a mental health debate on the floor of the House. Merritt Stiles had brought in this motion, which didn't mean anything. And it was actually disgusting because it was like a volleyball of people's mental health. I felt like a volleyball there because the NDP were like, the Conservatives are doing nothing and blah, 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 blah. And then we would volley something over. Well, the NDP and the Liberals, but they kept each other empowered and they did. Blah, blah, blah. So then they asked me to speak if I was okay. And I said, well, you're going to be surprised because I wasn't going to take our side and I wasn't going to take theirs. So what I did instead is I said, if your notes were written by a 25-year-old kid in short pants, throw them out. You're doing a disservice to everyone like me who's dealt with mental health. If you have somebody in your family or you have dealt with it or you have compassion for a constituent, you speak from your heart. And then they did one by one by one. They all threw out their notes, everybody. And I was really proud of that. It was very emotional. And a number of members came over and either told me that they themselves, some people, it's hard for them to disclose it, and I don't blame them. And they sat with me and said, oh, my mom was schizophrenic and hospitalized, or Lisa, I think I need to take a leave of absence for a couple of weeks because I've been, how do I do that? And so then I felt, okay, I was heard.
You probably won't remember this, but when I spoke out about being sexually assaulted when I was 8,
I remember.
on Canada Am, you were one of this is before email. It was, well, there was email, but there wasn't Twitter. There
We're
wasn't,
really that old that we're,
I know.
In the
I,
pre-times.
I
yeah,
will,
yeah.
I will never forget this, Lisa. You were one of the very first people who wrote to me. And the next day, I did the Canada Am thing. I talked about sexual abuse of children, which in that era was kind of unheard of. And I went through the Tim Hortons at Maryvale at Clyde on my way to the TV station. And this woman said, "Are you the one?" And I said, I don't think, what are we talking about?
Which one?
And she said, "It happened to me too." And I said, "Do you want to go into the parking lot and have a chat?" And she said, "No, I just wanted to tell you." Like, I'm in the drive-through window from my Tim Hortons double double. And she said, "No," she said, "it's just the first time in my life I've told somebody." And you were one of the very first people who wrote to me and said, you wrote, "How brave."
Well, you are.
And when you spoke out, I thought, how brave, how fucking brave. And I was so proud of you. It was just like absolutely amazing that you talked about the fact that people have mental health and that they can be a leader in the legislature and that
Yeah.
they still do that. What has it been like? Because we're going to talk about your wandering women. But what has that been like for you to be a leader in the mental health space?
Well, I mean, I don't know necessarily if I'm a leader. I think that there's people that are doing so much more, but I think what I like is just telling my own truth. And, people will come, um, people will come to my house and they'll sit there and we'll talk. It's made me, I mean, everyone's dealing with it, right? So it's just to normalize it or for them to do what that lady did, which is to quietly say, well, I'm doing it, or tears in their eyes. It's just, it's not leadership. It's like one of the women I serve with in the legislature said, some people are trailblazers and other people widen the trail. And I just feel like I'm widening the trail on this one. I'm not doing anything spectacular or new. Still standing. I guess that's spectacular.
I think that it might not be necessarily new, quote unquote, but I do think that it's still leadership. I think that we've had conversations with other people as well where it's, mental health still really not talked about that much. That's why we wanted to do this podcast. And I think that that's still like you're doing both as far as I'm concerned, right? Like there's not a lot of people actively doing something about it or think or talking about it or whatnot. And so we've got to get these people, such as yourself, out front because the more that we talk about it, And what Megan said on one of our other podcasts was destigmatize it as opposed to
Mhm.
normalize it, right? And destigmatize it so people speak up, because the people that don't speak up are isolated, and there's more things that happen when you can't speak up, I find.
Yeah, and you know what's a really good point? I just I'm teaching at McGill now on just to do some stuff with them. And today, this morning, I had a group of female parliamentarians from Kenya, and it's very taboo to talk about it. But it became an online therapy session because the women there, um, they both have to look after their physical safety, but they said, Lisa, like, I was very honest with them, and they're like, oh yeah, we feel exactly the same way, or I went through some of the same things. Thank you for telling me how to deal with self-care. You know, it doesn't matter what your economic circumstances are, what your title is in life. It doesn't matter where you live. You're going to be dealing with it one way or the other. And I truly believe, I mean, we're all going to deal with some mental anguish at some point in our life, whether that's a breakup, a divorce, whether it's a child dies, whether it's a beloved parent or a pet. Like, we just lost our pet last week, and it's like, you know, we're all dealing with it. So why not? Why stigmatize or shame it? Like,
Well, just
unless
and
you want to weaponize it against people, you know?
yeah, just because we don't talk about it doesn't mean it's not happening. And even when I work with my clients are caregivers to seniors, right? They're senior loved ones, and self-care and all of that type of stuff. I feel like I'm the only one talking about it in that circle of
Yeah.
people. And that's, I'm trying to just bring out all of that information so that people realize that, it's a big job, and you guys are all kind of suffering in silence. But if you talk about it, everybody will connect, because there's just so many people dealing with similar things. And in our world in general, there's all of us are dealing with some mental health stuff. It might, it's just a line of it. You might be down here, you might be up here. It just,
Yeah.
people are all dealing with it. And a lot of people just feel so isolated and don't know where to turn until people like us, all of us, speak out about it, and then they
Yeah.
have something to grab onto and learn from.
Yeah. Well, because making that first call to a psychiatrist or a psychologist is very scary.
Hmm.
And I don't know what the barrier is. It's an embarrassment or something, but you wouldn't do that if you know, had a gash in your knee or you broke your arm. You wouldn't become, oh, did I go to the doctor or not? Like, you
Yeah.
go.
So Lisa, I will share with you that so I see a PTSD expert every 2 weeks. Um, not just from the car accident, but you would remember Brian Smith's murder.
Yeah, and I know that impacted you.
Yeah, and and all I was told when I went on the air to do his sports thing, after walking around the crime scene where um his body matter was sprayed all over the sidewalk, was whatever you do, don't cry.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, don't cry. And so I went on live television and did what you now know to be the aftermath of Brian Smith's thing. So I have what they call complex PTSD, which is, I saw dead bodies all over Ottawa and stuff like that. I didn't have to do that in public the way that you had to do it in public. You, and forgive me for wording it this way, but you had some stumbles that were very public, and you regained your grace, which I highly respect,
Thank
is
you.
that you said, yep, that happened, and then you took back your position, and now you're doing this 50 plus wandering women. What is the connection between the struggle that you've been through and that? Because it seems so healing. Like it's
Yeah, yeah, I am healed. So yes, I had some very public things that, you know what, in hindsight, some people should have said you're sick, and they were out of character, and um, I was very sick, and
Mm.
I you for it's hard because you get flashbacks of certain things, but you don't remember them on your day-to-day basis when you're this, I'm medicated now. So, but when you're undiagnosed, like it's hell. And I spent my time in the legislature I didn't want to run, and I shouldn't have run in the last campaign because I was really sick. I ended up in the hospital during the campaign, really sick. And I just felt like my face was being pushed up against a wall, and there was no space for me to get, like I was trapped. And it took a while to figure out what I had, so I had to take leave and deal with all that, which is a trauma in and of itself, because it's just like it was really tough. And so I knew I didn't want to run again, and I decided on my 50th birthday, which was last October 29th, and I announced I wasn't running. I called the premier and I said, like, I'm done. I'm not running again. And so he asked me to stay. He goes, "You want to come back to Cap?" Like, that's the last place for me. Like I'm maybe another decade or something, but there's just no way. So I said, well, and at that point he knew that the election was going to be called. And he said, "Well, you stay to February." And I said, "Sure." And then I just wasn't healing. It was the most dangerous thing for me. Was being away from my family and from my doctors at that point. And I just couldn't complete the job. So on my 50th birthday, I got into the legislature and I gave a speech, and then I walked out. I never went back. And
Can I just interrupt? Like,
yeah,
you were very public about the fact that you were bipolar.
yeah,
Okay. All right.
yeah,
I just wanted everybody to understand that it wasn't a matter of just depression. Not that that's not a big enough
yeah.
deal.
No, it was, I was being pulled in between mania and depression, and I had a bout of psychosis, is all I can explain. And then just learning after I was bipolar what the right lithium levels was very hard. And we didn't settle until I would say a year ago on what the proper medication was for me. And so that in and of itself, like, and then of course add some, menopause into it.
Just sprinkle it in.
Oh my God, like that's enough
It.
on any given day. How are you doing now? Like, we want to talk
Yeah.
wondering 50 plus women, but
Yeah.
how are you doing now?
Yeah, I'm good. It's like dealing with any type of disease. Like, I have a disease that I have to take medication in the morning, to take medication at night. I have to meditate. I have to cut out social media from time to time, but I still engage in it. It's not a big deal. I have to get fresh air. I have to get out of my house, because my tendency now for a very social extroverted person is to really pull back. And I have to find some passion. So that's where, the Wandering Women came in, and it's fun, and it's about repatriation of Canadian dollars and Canadian identity. And I cook, and I love cooking. And so these are all kinds of little things. And I spend a lot of time with my family, like with my husband and my daughter. And I'm just enjoying her. Right. So
Because Joe's pretty cool.
yeah, he's a defensive foreign policy guy.
I know, he's pretty cool. Pretty cool. But I was talking to Amy about the fact that you have taken complete charge of your own health, and I totally respect that.
Yeah.
100% totally respect.
Well, if you don't take control of it, then others will, or they'll control the narrative. And I don't even know what people say about me anymore. And I could give two shits. Like, it is what it is. No one's really fair to politicians these days. And not that I'm harping on it, because I'm so upset with what they say about Pierre or Doug or whatever. But it's just really become so toxic. And we were joking, right, at the early stage. We're old. We're like pre-internet people.
We are.
And so when social media was coming into effect, like, we were living that, and you were on the air, I was in politics, right? Like, you're flying the plane as you go with it. And now, but it's really accessible for people to be abusive online, which also plays, I think, into people's depression. And the other things I learned is you can be depressed and it could be episodic, or you could be depressed, and it could be like a chronic problem. So I never, these are things I just, who knew?
Well, we're not taught.
Yeah.
We're all Googling this crap. Like
Yeah.
it's literally just like diagnosing ourselves, going to like the professionals that line up with what we find, hoping that we can get to the bottom of things.
Yeah.
And it's just we're not taught properly, and I think that's part of the reason why so many people are struggling, and that's part of the reason why people look to folks like you to help lead that path so they know they know it's they're not alone. They're not the only one struggling. Um, so with your 50 plus movement, um, I would love you to tell us more about it. And the extra question I have on it is going from like MPP in that space to something completely different. How has that changed for you? I'm not really sure how to word it. How has that changed when like all of a sudden you're not doing the politics anymore? All of a sudden that person has morphed into this person and like the way that people interact with you and look at you. How is that mentally for you with that change? It sounds like it could have been in a better situation, but I'm thinking from like the people that are, running a business or doing something, but all of a sudden they decide that my interest is over here actually, and then they make a change, but then they have all these other people that are like, but don't you belong there? And so did you like have any of that happening?
Yeah, over a 3-year period, and it's not uncommon that politicians who transition back into sort of civilian life have a lot of grief. And I knew it was happening. Like I knew the minute I was reelected in 2022, I was never going to run again. I shouldn't have run that election, and I did. I was very sick, and then I just said, I can't do this. So I knew I wasn't, and I was at peace with that, but there was still a part of the grief that I had, like letting go of the apartment that we had had for 18, 19 years. Having to tell my staff, they weren't going to have a job. The honorable this and the honor, I guess you could still call me that, but it was all of that. And then so you work through it, and then you transition out. And one, I feel people actually in the community are more respectful. And it's like it's been nice that way. I think the other thing when you do, like, I decided what I wanted to do, and it was basically my job as heritage, sport, tourism, and culture minister, but without any politics and without dealing with people's budgets and requests. So I basically created my own job description, and that's what I'm doing right now. And when you say, what do you do when I'm touring around, it's now from my heart, and it always was, but I don't have to deal with the partisan politics of it. I don't have to be accountable about the government. I can inspire people to, the women who are picking the brands, you know, making the bookings, taking care of their bodies, and, making sure that, they're voting as ballots, right? So, and inspiring them as, as a $1.3 trillion economic group. And I just love it. Like I'm having so much fun and I'm learning. And the other thing is I get to take the time. I don't have the time constraints I once did. And so I can, go to a community like Annapolis Royal, and I would love to spend 2 or 3 more days, but you know what? 2 is more than I got before, right? So it's yeah, I'm just doing my own thing. Let's see if it works. I don't know. Maybe it won't. Maybe it will. I just happy.
I I know, Lisa, that you wore the Cape Breton tartan. I think it was Cape Breton tartan recently.
I wore the Jewish tartan.
Okay. Um, so amazing. But you had, I believe, a stalker, and you also had your life threatened, and that was sort of I want to say the price to be paid for being a public person. And now you're doing this Wondering
Yeah.
Woman,
Wondering Women North of
55 plus.
50.
What was the transition for you from being somebody that was hunted, like truly hunted,
Mhm.
to wandering? What was that transition like for you personally?
Well, I really didn't leave my house for a couple of years because I was so scared. You become paranoid, and then the other thing is you feel like you're a piece of meat and people just like poking at it. So you lose your own level of respect because it just you believe that people hate you, and then you add a layer of mental illness on top of that, and it's very tough. So the first tour we did, I was very, very scared. But then as I picked myself up and the days went on and I grew back my confidence, it became probably one of the best things for my healing. And I actually wrote a diary called The Diary of a Bipolar Wandering Woman. And I talked about, real things. But I also talked about the beauty in the province of Ontario and then the 3 maritime provinces that we went to. So it's a journey. Whether it's a physical journey or a mental journey or a both, it's been a journey.
What advice would you give to other women who are not public figures and they're struggling in silence?
Get a care plan. Find out who your circle of care people are. Is that your family, a partner, a child, a parent, a friend, a coworker, a medical doctor? You need to do that. You need to sit down and seriously contemplate if you're going through depression or burnout, if you've got irregular sleep, if your weight is fluctuating and you don't know why, and then honestly just find something that brings you a little bit of joy and passion. And for me, it's cooking and traveling. For somebody else, it might be fly fishing or sitting on the deck reading. Um, but in all honesty, there has to be a way to, really look inward and be honest with yourself. And you don't have to make the first call to a 1-800 line, and you don't have to, shout from the rooftops. All you really need to do is first acknowledge that you're dealing with something, and it's okay, because like everybody at one point in their life is going to deal with it.
I think a lot of us need to relearn how to listen to our instinct and our gut and understand that our body's giving us feedback. And as like a lot of people are in denial as well, or they don't pay attention because there's a lot of situations where you kind of push down that introspection piece. And I think a lot of us need to learn how to just hone in and sit with ourselves, which is uncomfortable for a lot of people. Sit with ourselves and just listen because your body is telling you. And it'll get you, some kind of thought will come up maybe, and like it'll get you down another rabbit hole to look into these pieces and start pulling them together for yourself, is what I found.
Yeah, and I mean, if you deny the overarching issue, or if you don't follow through on some type of care for the first issue that comes up, it trickles, right? And so if I'm not medicated, my mind goes in either one or two directions. It's either going to um, go high and manic, and I rearrange my entire house. I make stupid things, and I spend all my money, or I get depressed and I don't leave my house, and I manifest even more problems. And then if you don't look after the bipolar, then a couple other things could happen. You could have metabolic disorder, which is what I have as well, or challenges with your sleep, which is challenges with your circadian rhythm, which I also have. So all of these things, can cause further issues. And so, and they can manifest physically as well. So you want to make sure that you're looking after your mental health. And everybody's got a mental health. We might not all have a mental illness like me, but you may have a mental health, self-care problem.
So, Lisa, I wanted to share with you, and I've never said this on this podcast. October 21st, 2025 is the last day that I wanted to die.
Really?
Yeah, and the car accident we can get into, the insurance problem in the province of Ontario, which you might know something about.
Yeah.
And there was no money coming, and I had invested in the highest policy that money can buy, and I look at that as my date that, sorry, but like F you, I'm not gonna do this. And that's the last day that I wanted to die. And I didn't want to die. Like I didn't have a plan. I didn't know, but I just was like done, like done. And I literally thought, what is the headline in the Ottawa Sun going to be? Is that
Yeah.
former CTV anchor takes her own life. And I was just like mortified by the fact that you don't understand what I've been through since I got hit by a car. And um, living in public is a whole other fucking thing, because you live your life for other people's expectations. And
Hmm.
when you're not all glossy and on stage and in a ball gown and all that other kind of stuff, what I did find, Lisa, honestly, and I'm sure I'm gonna like burn in hell for this podcast, is some of those people don't fucking show up. Like they don't. They're
Hmm.
like, oh, you fell down on the job and now we don't want anything to do with you. And it was a giant piss off for me. Like
Yeah.
giant piss off for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like I feel the same way. And they know they're watching it and they're talking about it and nobody's reaching out to help. Like what the hell?
Right?
Yeah.
And meanwhile, you have done everything in your power to help these organizations to raise money for their charities, to show up in ball gowns and all that kind of stuff
Yeah.
that happens with what we do. And yet when you're struggling, they disappear.
Yeah.
They like disappear. It was a ginormous annoyance for me. Because
Well, it's hurtful.
it's very hurtful. And so how did you move on from that? Because I want to talk about Wandering Women. Like, so you created something
Yeah, I created something that
positive,
I wanted, and I was lucky enough that when I thought I didn't have, like when you think that there's like no people around, and then one person calls you, and it could be it's random. Take it as a sign and keep moving, and it just that sort of got me back in the wellness side of things. And I'm having a lot of fun with it, and then I'm realizing that as a public figure actually there were people that liked me, didn't care that I was elected. And you go
yeah.
through that a lot, right? You probably, I mean, you were more famous than me. You're on TV. And then, well, you know what is funny, Kimothy? Like, I remember somebody when I was working for Jan Harder, and they go, "Oh my God, can you believe like Bob Shirelli was at the grocery store?" And I was like, wow, whoa. And then I get elected, and people would come up to me and they're like, why are you here? Why are you at Costco? Or is Lisa Macleod really at Value Village? I'm like, yes. Like, who do you think does my thrifting? Who do you think does my grocery? And I'm sure that they thought the same about you because, you'd have your hair and your makeup done every day whenever you were there, except for the time you were on strike and you wore your shorts underneath I remember that day, or you were wearing jeans maybe. Um, but it's really kind of
But
funny.
I will tell you, I was at my Pretoria Loblaws and Joe Clark was the customer in front of me. And I love Joe Clark.
Yeah, me too.
I love the former Prime Minister Joe Clark, and I was like, and he's much taller than you kind of guess, right? Like he's a man of stature. I've interviewed Jean Chrétien, also terrifying to interview. And I had my head down and I was like looking up, like, oh my God, that's Joe Clark. And I wrote to Catherine, saying, oh my God, I saw your dad at the grocery store. And Catherine, who's lovely,
Yeah.
yeah, he does his own groceries. I'm like, I realize that that's normal for you, but for me, that's not normal. And I didn't say a word, but that's sort of the conflict between being a public person. I'm sure you get this all the time. Um, the public person is, oh my God, I saw Lisa Macleod at, Superstore or whatever it is. And then they get all excited because you're just an icon in their.
Yeah, it's weird. And I remember my daughter one time we were at was it at Costco or was it at Loblaws? Can't remember. Anyway, this woman comes running. She goes, "Oh my God, you look just like Lisa Macleod." And my daughter was cracks up. She was about 15 at the time, and she was dying laughing. And she goes, "Mommy, I can't believe she just said that to you." And I'm like, well, you know.
And actually, Lisa, I will share with you that it happened to me at one point where somebody said, "You just look like Kimothy Walker, but you're not as attractive."
No way.
True story.
Good God.
And I'm like just like doing my family schlep and groceries and stuff like that. And she said, "You just look like Kimothy Walker, but you're not as attractive." I'm like, well, that's
Who
super,
says that?
super awesome.
Who
Yeah.
says it to anybody?
Yeah. That's the problem of being a public figure. So what do you want to do with women 50 plus, Lisa?
Yeah. So the whole idea right now is sort of a protest movement against Donald Trump and the trade war, and looking at the economic impact of women who control 1.3 trillion dollars of spending in Canada,
Yep.
and really try and actually tell the business community in Canada that this is the most significant economic group in the country, and therefore you should market to us and cater to us. And so it's, you know, going to hotels and auditing and saying, okay, look, you great grounds, but you don't have them lit properly for women. You're not AODA compliant, like you know. So if one of us were a single or solo traveler, having a couple of bags walking up a set of stairs might not be the easiest thing. And then we do something called the sangria test, and that's a really fun test. That's
What?
when Susan, my business partner, goes in because she likes sangria, and she orders a sangria everywhere we go, just for the, it's like a test. And we the best restaurants have the sangria on the menu. The great restaurants say, "I will get that on the menu because we have the ingredients and we'll make it, and if we can't make it well, we'll try and find something to accommodate you." And the worst are the people that go, "No ma'am, we can't." And I just feel if you're dealing with women who make 80% of the travel decisions, um, then you're really losing a market. So it's really sort of activism for that community and the community I just entered as a 50-year-old woman. So and creating that as a, you know, as a movement that allows us to feel inspired, but at the same time tell organizations and marketing companies and businesses that if you want us, don't always do beer and chicken wings. Think about the wine and cheese too. And we're loyal and we're making the decisions. So do it. Do it, lady.
So is this the vision for you going forward for your next career?
It's one of them. I think, you know, I want to create something that has an impact for a growing economic force, or the economic force in the country. I've written a book. It's with a literary agent right now, and it has a great deal of detail about my time in politics and my mental illness. And I want to I want to try lots of different things. You know, I got elected at 30. I retired at 50. 2 decades of my life, and when you're a young woman, to become, you know, a middle-aged woman, I have a lot of time. I gotta, you know, sink into some new types of hobbies and meet new friends, connect with old ones, spend some time with my family, and really just out of politics. But this is, it's kind of a fun one. It's our larger sort of movement or company is called Secord Strategies, named after Laura Secord, about the, and as an homage to you know, the woman who defeated the Americans in the War of 1812. And so, yeah, so for the time being, long answer, I just gave you. The short answer is this is just the start.
What do you think of this guy who runs the United States of America?
I would call him the great disruptor. Um, I I must say I'm concerned for anybody that's from Canada going to the United States right now. Um, I think he's, he's challenged the world order, and it's at a time when the world needs it needs a strong United States. And it's who's to say if he has a grand plan? I would love to see it, but I don't know. Like, it's really not for us to comment about someone else's domestic politics, but it really is impacting us so much. And the reality is, my movement, the Wandering Women North of 50, was created as a result of Donald Trump attacking our country.
Yeah.
So going after our Canadian identity, and it is unacceptable. And then threatening so many Canadians, like, we spend $20 billion a year on travel and trade. 20 billion in the United States. Why would we spend a dollar at all? And so even if we take back 3 billion of that, we create 40,000 jobs. So I think let's just give him some credit. He's done more for Canadian unity than anyone has done in a very long time.
We'll take it.
Isn't it always the way when you're converging around somebody because you dislike the other guy?
And yet you worked for the guy who has been the most outspoken person, I think, against some of the electricity, steel, aluminum, and stuff like that. So you must feel a little bit proud that you
Yeah,
were part of that legacy.
yeah, I'm completely
We're
proud.
not putting up with
Yeah,
this shit, man. We're not
I
putting up
know.
with it.
I know. No, I'm really proud of all. Like, let's take even the partisanship out of it. Like, I think Carney's doing what he can. I don't think he's, um, I mean, he's just brand new. I think Danielle Smith gets a really rough go, but I think she's been doing what she can.
Oh, in
Uh,
Alberta. Alberta.
yeah, yeah. So and again, like, I think that you really got to come together in a time like this as Team Canada. And I think the greatest attribute that we have as a country are the people of this country, just basically on like a dime, like just as we snap our fingers, everybody became so proud to be Canadian,
Yep.
like in a drop of a hat. Like, I couldn't believe it, but it was nice to see. So you asked me what I think. I mean, he's an interesting sideshow. um he's got a lot of power. um and it's a very difficult time, not just when he's picking at us, but the rest of the world.
hmm Lisa, how can people learn more about the Wandering Women and all the things that you're up to?
Yes, well, they can always find me at Lisa at ccordstrategies.ca, or ccordstrategies.ca is our website, and you can find out more about the Wandering Women there. I'm on all of the things, so Instagram, LinkedIn, X, which I probably shouldn't be from time to time. And even I just got on TikTok. And so you can actually watch my famous rant against Donald Trump there,
You're
about
an
Canadian women.
MAC, which
Oh,
is
yes, I'm an
important for those
MAC.
of us who know anything about Nova Scotia, Cape Breton, MAC.
Yeah, so I'm an MAC. And I have a webinar coming up to talk a little bit about Wandering Women North of 50, and an exclusive retreat that we're hosting in Nova Scotia to live like a local. And we'll actually let you catch your own lobster on a fishing boat and then
Cool.
eat the lobster
I
at a
want to do
kitchen
that.
party.
I totally want to do that.
Yeah, well, I'll send it over to you. And
Okay.
that's in September.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been really great. Thank you for being open with us and sharing your story. We really appreciate it, and we really hope that this has helped others by hearing, what's possible really, and in that lots of people could be struggling, but there are possibilities on the other side of that coin that they just have to bind together and communicate, really. Tell people about it.
Yep. Yeah, thank you. This has been great.
Awesome. Well, from all of us to all of you, we'll see you next time on the Inner Shift podcast.
I'm so grateful for you, Lisa. Thank you.
I'm grateful for you too. Thanks, guys, and hopefully I'll get to see you in person at some point.
Hopefully.
Yeah.